Greetings. My name is Elizabeth Asige, a physiotherapist working in Kampala, Uganda. I was a PhD student in Akwenda Intervention and also coordinated the implementation of the intervention for children with cerebral palsy in Uganda. Thank you.
Greetings. I'm Gillian Saloojee, a physiotherapist based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I was involved in the development and design of the Akwenda Intervention Program. I was responsible for the training of the therapists involved in the program. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Wanjala Godfrey, a social worker. I was a community-based rehabilitation worker on Akwenda Intervention Program, and I was responsible for running activities under communication and advocacy.
Presentation focuses on the aspect of participation in activities of daily living after the Akwenda Intervention Program. Before we tell you about the study, I'd like to ask you, Elizabeth, you are a physiotherapist, a Ugandan physiotherapist, and you also grew up with a sister who had cerebral palsy. Why for you was this such an important study to do?
Thank you. Growing up watching a child with cerebral palsy, having no hope, and a caregiver who are the primary parents with no knowledge on how to help a child, it's a very big challenge to everyone who has to live and watch a child not being helped, ignored, stigmatized, isolated, and the parents battling with a child with no knowledge on how to help a child.
We're going to start by telling you what the Akwenda Intervention Program comprised of, then tell you how the study was conducted before we discuss the results. The Akwenda Intervention Program comprised 4 distinct components. The first component was caregiver-led workshops. Caregiver-led implies that these workshops were led by parents themselves who had been trained as expert caregiver facilitators. And they ran a series of 7 workshops, each on a different theme. They ran the workshops in pairs, a group of 2 parents, and there were no therapists involved at all. These workshops were held once a month. Following each workshop, the week after the workshop, there was a therapist-led group session, which you can see at the bottom of the page, where the therapist revised the content of the caregiver-led workshop. It was the same theme. And then there was a practical component where caregivers had to practice knowledge that was taught during the workshop. The third component was the provision of technical assistive devices. Most of the devices were locally made as far as possible. All children requiring a mobility device, Godfrey organized together with the family and a local builder on how to make the houses and the yard where the children stayed accessible. The fourth component of the program involved goal setting. The fifth component was communication and advocacy. This was the component led by Godfrey, who ran workshops in the community for stakeholders, that is community leaders, traditional leaders, counselors, religious leaders and teachers, addressing aspects around disability. And there were also workshops for the caregivers themselves. The main outcome measure was picture my participation. So Godfrey, I wonder if you can explain to us what the picture my participation outcome measure looked like. Godfrey, the picture my participation is a tool that you are very familiar with. Can you tell us about it?
Picture my participation is a tool that was developed in low and middle income countries. and it was used to measure activities, 20 home activities and community activities. And we had to score, parents were scoring based on how much the children were attending in those activities and how much they were involved. We used pictures because it was easier for respondents to look at the pictures and pick the response to each question. You know, since most of our caregivers are semi-illiterate, they could not read and write. That's why we had pictures. So it was well illustrated and it was easier for them to pick the responses.
The results clearly show that the Akwenda Intervention Program was successful in improving both attendance and involvement of children with CP. At the bottom of the slide, the 20 activities are listed, and you can see that in all activities, the intervention group is the group that is in black, and what you can see is that amount of change in both attendance and involvement improved across all activities. These results quite clearly show that the Akwenda Intervention Program was successful in bringing about meaningful changes in the level of children's both attendance and involvement in social and community activities. In other words, we were able to show that the level of participation increased. And this was also related to results that we published in an earlier study, which showed that children's level of functioning also improved. Elizabeth and Godfrey, can you perhaps explain why you think we saw these results?
Like you explained earlier, the Akwenda intervention was a multi-component intervention, and the training component empowered the caregivers, the stakeholders, and the children themselves with knowledge. And with that knowledge, there was change of negative social attitude towards the children by the stakeholders and the parents themselves. They believed in their children. Also, the children involvement in this intervention was something very powerful because they owned it. It was their first time to go out and meet their fellow children, as they have always been locked in their houses, and they owned it. They actually knew every beginning of the month, the Wednesday and the Thursday was for their school day. They called it their own school day, and they would remind the parents, you are going for my program, and owned it. And on the Wednesday, the second Wednesday of the month that they were supposed to come with their parents, parents reported that these children woke up very early in the morning, and even the ones that in level 4 would wriggle in bed and make noise. I don't know how it was so automatic that it became part of them. And also the desire to adventure. These children had never been involved in any activities. Even the level 1 and level 2, they were ignored. They were called disabled, meaning people who are not able to do anything. So when we involved these children in these activities and the parents saw that these children were able, they were shocked, and the children themselves were very excited. For example, we had one child called Laura. We introduced her to washing plate as one of her goal setting. And one time the grandmother said, Laura, today you are washing breakfast plates. After washing plates, the breakfast plates, she went and brought everything that was in the cupboard also to be washed, because it was really joyful to start play with plates, soap, and water. So it was an adventure for them. Digging was an adventure for them. And this was a missed opportunity for their parents. Because we also had one child that actually accepted himself. He appreciated himself, Riga. When he saw other children in level 4, he laughed so much and said, oh my God, at home they think I'm a wheelbarrow because I move on my butt. But at least I move on my butt. But this one cannot even turn. So he's actually a wheelbarrow. And I asked him, why are you laughing at your friends? He said, you know, for long I believed that me, I am the wheelbarrow. And I asked what a wheelbarrow means. Say something that is just pushed, can't do anything for it. So, but I can move. I can even give chicken water on my butt. So acceptance by the parents, by the children, by the stakeholders really was a very key part in this intervention.
And when we invited stakeholders to attend meetings, we realized there was information gap, and this was making it so hard. But when they got the information, they really became the ambassadors in the communities, whereby some children who were being locked in houses, now they were advocating for them to be, maybe to attend celebrations, to go to churches, mosques, and the other social activities. What was interesting was the fact that there was one of a caregiver who reported that I had stopped going to church because whenever I could share a seat with other church goers, they were leaving me alone there. But when the religious leaders attended the training, he went back and it was the message that you people don't leave this caregiver to sit alone. The child is part of us. So it was really the day this caregiver went for service, everyone was welcome. So he came and testified in our workshop that I couldn't believe that people sat with me on the same seat for the whole service. And this was really, it really motivated more people who had given up on going to churches.
Because the stakeholders got involved, the parents got involved, the family members got involved, and it was for their own risk. So I think next, any program that involves stakeholders, primary caregivers, targets the family and the person affected, it's a very good program. Never exclude the person that is supposed to be the beneficiary in anything you try to do for them. Thank you.